Hey, it's time to crank up the truth. I'm Val Selby, and over the decades of working online, I've learned a most important lesson. Mindset owns your business. If procrastination, imposter syndrome, and a lack of focus have been blocking your biz, then I'm here with Val Full Volume, ready to help you see choices that you're making. Get ready to own your personality and use your expertise to create the business of your dreams. Now is the time to make changes and live your best life. So let's get to it. Hello. All right, lady. So I'm excited you're here. I am 100% weighing this. I know what the title is. And I know in my head some of the stuff that needs to come out. It has to come out, but I'm winging this. I got no notes. So if you listened to last week's podcast and if you're on my newsletter, which I hope that you're on my newsletter list, you know that my brain is so full of cliches and random phrases that we know, love, and hate. And I'm just letting them flow. Just letting them flow. But the one that keeps sticking, really, really, really sticking, is everything old is new again. And part of it is when I'm in transition period, which I majorly am right now. I already was in major transition period, and I knew this. And then, of course, after having to put my dog down and dealing with that, I mean, like everything is why, what do I want? And again, this is not in a negative way whatsoever. This is a cycle and it's good because for once I'm in this cycle and I'm not freaking out. Usually by now, because it's been weeks that I know I've been in it, I would be doing the, oh my God, we have to do something now. I need a purpose now. And I'd be like throwing something together. Something would get my attention and I'd be like, squirrel. And I'd be like, oh, this has to be launched tomorrow. I was just talking about that in the mastermind today, actually. I'm really proud of myself for the growth that is happening, that I'm not doing that. Because when I do that, I end up creating things that I am not continually excited about. I can be excited about them for a while. I can even be excited about them for a long while. And sometimes they do serve an amazing purpose to help me through something, but I don't want that. And it's different and it's weird. It's really different for me. So I'm being aware. I'm being conscious. But everything old is new again is popping up because, like I talked about, I've got, I don't think it's even 6 months now. So, oh no, it's almost exactly 6 months. I will be 50. 10 years ago, when it was 6 months to my 40th birthday, everything was changing. Everything in my life was getting ready for change. And I knew that. As much as you can know that. I mean, our oldest was going into her senior year. She had decided that I was the devil incarnate. And so I was working through that and all of the emotions and changes that come with that and realizing that, the family dynamic is not going to ever be the same again. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. And I was going into it knowing that and, working to embrace that. And what does that look like for positives? Meanwhile, of course, I was the devil incarnate. So dealing with the emotional of being, obviously, you can look back now and realize that, yeah, that's the pushing away because they have to push away, which is a good thing. Good thing we went through it with the second one as well. It's a good thing. It's just really fucking hard when you're in it, right? So I was going through all of that and so much personal stuff was going on that it was really hard to be present in my business and figure that stuff out. And I'm not going to go through all of it. Definitely not going to go through all of it. There's way too much has happened, even in the last 10 years, even in the last 5 years, to go through all of that. I just know that I can look back and realize that so much of my personal life, I was going through so much growth that there's a lot of stuff in the last 10 years that I did enjoy doing. And it didn't bring the outcome I wanted at that time. So it got dropped. Or, okay, let's not even say that. No, it didn't get dropped. I told myself it was a fail and I quit doing a lot of those things. And it was the right thing to do at that time. I'm really working on not beating myself up. It was the right thing to do at that time. But that doesn't mean that it can't happen again with the knowledge that I have now, right? I mean, how much have you learned about yourself, others, business in the last 10 years, right? A ton. You have learned a ton in the last 10 years, just like I have. And it even goes way farther back. Like my brain is flashing through. It's not flashing through. It's having pop-ups of, do you remember that you did this and you actually made money? Do you remember you did this and you actually made money? Now, a lot of this stuff, having been online working for 22 years, a lot of this stuff previously, there was major reasons why I did quit doing it, or I quit doing it with the partner that I was with. And a lot of it has to do with it just was a lot of work. We didn't have the automations that we have now. You know, we did not have the technology that we have now. So it was a lot more work. So the investment of all of that time and then the outcome from it, well, we made money and that was awesome. It just wasn't sustainable the way we were doing it. I'm sure it became not fun, right? It just became oh my gosh, we have to do this again. So I'm looking back at that stuff. And 22 years, that's a lot of stuff to look back on. And I know that I'm looking at it with fresh eyes because I had not realized how much experience I already had in the online event planning, because I totally had forgotten about stuff that I had done in the past. I owned a website that was all about planning. That's what a friend and I did way back in the ancient days with the probably the most basic script you could ever have. We were doing online parties. We were planning them out. You know, we were planning out parties a few times a month that we were putting on, and we'd recruit people. And then we also had it open so that people could direct sales, people could come and rent our room and host their own parties, because we didn't have Facebook back then. We didn't have the groups. We didn't have Zoom. We didn't have any of that. And I look back at some of that stuff now and I was like, well, of course it was easier now when I started doing online event planning for clients and now for myself and my partner Raven at Bundle Bash. It's like, of course, you silly. You used to do this when it was difficult. And I'm not saying that there's not work involved now. There sure as hell is work involved now. But the technology now versus then is amazing. So it was familiar and I didn't even remember. I didn't even know why it was familiar, you know, until I started paying attention. It's why now as I'm in change, I'm like, well, what if it's already something that I've already done? What if the next great thing that I want to be working on is something I've already done? And now it's just time to take the education that I have and the experience I have and flip that old idea completely on its head, because we're going to do it in a totally different way. What if? I don't know. What have you done in the past? It doesn't even have to be business, but it could be. What have you done in the past that you've already forgotten about that's experience to bring in? Now, this is definitely what we talk about with my clients, of the expertise that you bring to the table. We all bring expertise to the table. Are we the ultimate and know everything? No, but nobody does. But we have experience in a lot of different areas. that we can bring. So digging into that helps. It helps the business be easier. It helps it flow just a little bit more because you're bringing in that experience and stuff that you've already done. Even if you possibly are not aware of it right now, it's what you're doing. And that can go in the negative too. You're bringing in the energy of, oh my God, you might not even be aware of it. I know I was not aware of it in so many different situations of, ugh. So if you have something that you're working on and it's going, ugh, take a look and see why. Is it a past experience and you might have been doing something in that field area? And so that's why it's giving you that negative energy, giving you that feeling of, I don't want to. Take a look at that. Because it might be something that you just need to tweak, or it might be something that you just, no, you don't need to do it. Which is one thing that I was working through as we were having our mastermind meeting today. And I was like word vomiting this stuff out because that's what happens when you're working through it in the moment, right? Is you're just like, this stuff isn't going to make sense. And that's okay. It is okay to just let it out and it doesn't have to make sense. The letting it out is for me a big part of the power, because as soon as I'm letting it out, then I take the power back. So everything old is new again. I was looking at it and specifically looking at a site that always brings me back. It's always my go-to. It always pulls me back. And I've had different coaching about it and it ends up being a negative. And I kind of had gotten to the point where it's just like, not that the site is evil, but that it's toxic for me. And I'd gotten to that major idea that this entire thing is toxic for me. I am toxic. It's toxic, but I can't get rid of it. I mean, just like, ew. So I ignore it, right? And that's happened over all of these years, a lot of years on it. So that happens. And so I was sitting with it today in my head because I have just been sitting with it instead of jumping into working on it again, like I normally would like to do. I have been sitting on it and just thinking, okay, I want to figure out why I'm constantly brought back to working on this. And, when I say I'm constantly brought back to working on it, it's a giant group. It's never made anything more than pennies. And I have tried things over the years and they didn't work. Some things worked a little bit better than others. And and here's where I'm just going to keep that thought going. I'm not going to scroll. And I'm looking back on it and going, okay, so why do you feel like you need to come back to this? And I know I've had some coaches, multiples, and friends and mentors. So multiple people. I talk about this niche a lot over the years because it always does bring me back. And I have a realization that one of the major reasons why they are usually suggesting that I'm moving away from it is because there's really only been negative that I've talked about with it and associated with it. I can look back and realize that. I can also look back on over all of those years, those coaches were coaching from their experiences at that time and helping me make the choices that were good for me at that time. And I'm becoming aware of that and paying attention. And here's where I want to do my little disclaimer. Even as coaches, we do know we will be constantly learning and evolving. What I know now is not what I'm going to know in 10 years. And I can promise you that because what I know now is not what I knew 10 years ago. I'm a totally different coach now than I was 10 years ago. And when I don't have regrets, I do look back and go, oh my gosh, if I had known some of this stuff back then, wouldn't that have been amazing? How many more people I could have helped? You can't look back on it because that's always a thing, but it's just like, okay, but I can embrace what I've got right now. And what if I do go back in there? What does that look like? How do I help them in that niche? How do I help them with the boundaries that I know I need to put in place so that it doesn't become toxic? What would that look like? And like I said, I'm not jumping into things. There's more. This site always brings me right back. If you are listening and you know me for a while, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because we've surely talked about it. But even, like I said, towards the beginning, even stuff that I did in the past, things like flipping websites. I had a partner and we, gosh darn, this is easily 12 years ago or longer, probably way longer than that. Yeah, definitely has to be way longer than that. We were flipping websites. We got in on WordPress early. We figured it out. People didn't know how to do it. And there wasn't a lot of options. You were either still coding in some way, even if you were using something to help you with that code, you were still working a lot in code, or you were working on WordPress, or you're working in other blog platforms. So we were flipping websites. And I look back and I was just like, oh my gosh, we were selling those sites for a few $100s back in the day. Isn't that crazy? Way back, probably. Honestly, if I look back, let's see, I got on WordPress in 2004. So it's got to be more than 12 years ago that was going on. I can look back through my emails and find the dates, actually. Thank you, Gmail. So even stuff like that. I was like, well, would that be fun? I don't know. It might be fun. What else have I done over the past 22 years that might be fun? I don't know. It's hard to remember everything, but I'm digging into it because that's just the cliche that's in my brain is everything old is new again. If you have been in business for a while and you're feeling stale, you're feeling restless, you're in a change, take a look at what did you used to do? What have you done before? What have you done before and you told yourself it was a fail? That you knew could work. Because now you've got, especially if it was 5 years ago, look at the technology we have. Look at our email capabilities. Our automations are so more incredible than they were just 5 years ago. So what if you set stuff up differently? What about it now can you look back and go, well, of course it didn't work. I can look back on stuff 5 years ago and tell you for sure why it didn't work because nobody heard about it. That was one of my MOs. Like I said, this is me not deciding that I have to launch and launching tomorrow. That was my MO. I love to do that. I can do all of that work and put it all together and look at it. It's gorgeous. And then not market it. So nobody ever saw it. That was my MO. So I am going through a lot of my workshops that are sitting on my computer. A lot of my workshops that are even sitting behind the scenes on my website. A lot of the ideas that I had that I did not end up because you don't have time for all of your ideas. You have to make priorities. All of those ideas and such, and taking a look at them and it's like, okay, well, what would be fun out of all of these? What is in line with what I want to create and already here that I can repurpose, maybe record some videos with it. Cause I am sure 5 years ago, I was not doing video because I was so anti-video at that point. What if grabbing some of that stuff and redoing it to current would be the way to do it? What if that's the easy way? And that can be even if you're just even newer to business. What did you put out a year ago that you can revisit and redo it? Because you've learned a lot in the last year, I guarantee. A lot. So redo that product real quick and get it back out there and relaunch it. It's something that so many of us get in the habit of not doing. We get into a habit of creating new. And then we've built our lists, right? So there's possibly hundreds of people on your list now that never saw that product a year ago. They don't even know it exists. So remarket it. Give it some fresh social images or something. I don't know how much change has to happen for your product. How proud of it are you still? Can you just quickly redo it, or do you need to do some big stuff to it? Can you revamp it completely? Can you add it to something else? I don't know, but everything old is new again. Everything cycles through. And if it was something that you liked doing at one time, you're probably going to cycle back through into liking to do it again. And be okay with that. Just because we tried it probably once and it didn't work the way you hoped it would be, doesn't mean that it won't work even better and to your goals the next time you do it, which is one big thing that I'm looking at. It's I've already put all this work into it. What if? That's my favorite phrase. What if? What if I just do some little tweaking to this and it blows up and does exactly what I hoped it would do last time? What if I have the knowledge now and some traffic and a bigger list and a more targeted list, and this is the time to blow it up with that product, with that workshop, with that coaching program? So I'm sitting in it. I'm making slower moves. I'm making more intentional moves. And we'll see where this is all going. You will know where it's all going. You might have noticed I did close my membership for right now. And I'm paying attention that I'm not just going to put it back up quick. It's not just going to open back up right away. I'm being very intentional on it's going to open probably by the end of the year. I don't have a date yet, but probably by the end of the year, it will relaunch. You'll get notice of it. But the slower I'm going about what I want it to look like and what I want to create, the more excited I get because I'm being more intentional this time. Last time I did create it and it was just okay, today. We're meeting today. That's about how it went. Hey, I'm going to have a business meeting today and you've had a lot of questions. Join me. That is how that membership was created 2.5 years ago. So I'm being more intentional with it, but it will be coming back because I know I will miss it. I will absolutely miss it. So, okay, let's leave it at that. This is long enough. Thank you for being here. Everything old is new again. Take a look at what you have done in the past and how can you revamp it and do it again? What did you learn from it? What can you bring to the table now from learning from it? All right. Thanks. I will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to Val Full Volume. If you are done spinning in circles and procrastinating, check out my quick workshop, 14 Biz Actions. Action creates change. Now go out there and create the biz of your dreams.